Well, good morning, everybody. Day 2 of xChange, and we've got a great customer panel to continue on with the theme of focusing on you, the customers. So let's invite them up here. First, we've got Justin Arnold of Blue Turtle. Justin, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much.
Paula Callis of Shelter Insurance, and Craig Cayley of Lender Live.
Super comfortable.
Let's start off, before we get into our fact or fiction, how about telling us a little bit about each of your companies and your experience with Serena Software. So Justin, we'll start with you.
Okay. So we're a Serena partner in sub-Saharan Africa. So we primarily sell software. We implement it and support for all our customers down there. And we've been a partner now for about 5 years or so.
So you perhaps get the prize. I know we have a few people here from India, but you came from Johannesburg. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, 26 hours.
26 hours, yeah.
It's quite a flight.
Paula, tell us a little bit about you and Shelter Insurance.
We're a mid-sized insurance company in the Midwest, serving 13 states, and we're here in Nevada, but no one knows us.
And how long have you been with Shelter Insurance and with Serena?
I've been with Shelter Insurance over 30 years.
Have you though?
We've had Serena Change mainframe for over 20.
Wow. So seeing Doug Troxel up there, the man, that had to be really exciting. He is change man.
He is.
Yeah.
He's an assembler programmer, I understand.
Yes, he is, and still does.
He loves it.
Yeah. Craig, tell us a little bit about Lender Live.
Lender Live is a business process outsourcer in the mortgage industry. So we work with clients nationwide to provide services, and I manage the technology team that builds and provides those services.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how long have you been with Lender Live?
All combined 8 years. And the reason I say combined is Lender Live has grown through acquisitions, and I was part of one of those acquisitions.
I see. Okay. And how long have you been involved using Serena software?
We started with Serena products with TeamTrack and PVCS back in about 2005, and have grown with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the way this game is played is each of you have a paddle that says fact on one side, fiction on the other. I'm going to throw out a series of statements, some of which you're all going to agree with and some of which you're not. You'll hold up the paddle, say fact or fiction, and then we'll have a discussion about those. All right. Well, let's start off at the top. The bottleneck for getting major value from Agile is in release management, not development management. Release management is more important for Agile than development management. Fact or fiction? There we go. 2 facts and a fiction. Okay, so let's start off, we'll start at the end here with the man from Johannesburg. And you said your answer because?
Well, essentially, I think if you look at the complexity associated with the release and the release train itself, and actually looking at dependencies between componentry, that's where the complexity is in terms of moving something into production. It's not how you create and define and develop the actual componentry.
Okay.
That's the key thing for me. That's why I'd say fact.
You said fact. Paul, you said fiction. Before you give your answer, you might want to report to the audience that you're actually speaking for several people here and polled them in advance.
Yes, I have some workers here, some coworkers who I'm happy to point out right there, and I very much consulted with them on these questions, as this isn't really my wheelhouse, but no one else would get up here. So
I think you guys owe her dinner or something. What do you say here, huh? All right, so your peanut gallery told you to say
fiction, and I think we don't have a very complex release management right now. It's very small, so we're finding most of our pain points in testing. So that would be in the development area, and that's where we experience pain.
I see. Craig, you went with fact.
I went with fact, and the reason I did was a lot of it's based on our architecture. We have a very distributed and component-based architecture, which translates into a lot of servers in our architecture in the hundreds. So it doesn't take much when you factor in the hundreds of servers and the production and pre-production environments to realize that release management is a heavy load more so than testing.
There's a lot involved in getting something released into all those, into hundreds of servers.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I can see that.
I can see that.
All right, let's do another one here. Also sort of in the area of release. Continuous delivery is a worthwhile goal, fact or fiction? Continuous delivery, something we're all talking about a lot these days, is a worthwhile, oh, 3 facts. Everybody agrees that this new thing, continuous delivery, is a worthwhile goal. Why is that? Craig, let's start with you.
I think it's a worthwhile goal, especially for the pre-production environments like development, QA. But once you get close to the production environments, I kind of then turned it into fiction.
Yeah.
It is, and I don't recall the exact slide yesterday, but it was the one that had the dial.
Right, Steve Brody's slide where it was almost like a slider.
Yes, and that I think was a good slide in that having continuous delivery for those pre-production environments is a terrific goal and could help with the velocity. But then we have to have more controls around the release into production for audit purposes and the like.
I'm seeing, so either of you want to add something to that?
I think just the control itself should be around about the UAT environment.
Right around the UAT environment.
Around about there.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately you want the developers to have access to the SIT environment for systems integration testing, and you want to kind of minimize restriction in terms of access control and those kind of things.
I see. Good. Paula, anything?
Good process in place is what one of my developers told me.
Yeah, good process.
Yeah.
Well,
good process is, supporting it.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
we at Serena with Orchestrated IT, we're all about the good processes. That's right. ITIL has as much impact on app dev as it does on ops. Fact or fiction? ITIL impacts app dev as much as it impacts ops. Fact or fiction? Oh, we have another outlier. Paula, you're the outlier. They gave you tough duty, and they sent you up here and said, okay, we're going to go our own way.
I know, it's awful. Yeah.
All right, why don't you explain?
Well, I spoke to Tiffany is here with me, and she's our ITIL expert, and she assures me this is a fact, especially for us. So. And so I'm here to represent that. I think that in our shop especially, and I think a lot of these answers reflect our environment, our architecture.
Right.
But, we're bringing both of them to the table right now in ITIL, and they're both experiencing similar pain points.
Yeah.
So
well, I think
maybe as it matures, I might go to fiction.
Still, it sounds to me like the correct approach to bring both sides of the house together for that major initiative.
That's what we hope.
Yeah. Okay, nonetheless, your 2 colleagues here said fiction, so let's have them defend themselves on this. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, so I think developers often are creative people, and I think they tend to like to buck the system and ignore the rules.
Right.
So I think they have a tendency to kind of ignore those kind of processes and don't see them as important, essentially. I think ops, on the other hand, it's all about production and control.
Right.
And that's key and critical to them.
Right.
So that's possibly where the divide is between the organizations.
Okay. Craig?
Well, and we have our development team does ITIL affects them a little bit as they start to package items for release, but because of the environment that I described earlier, we have a lot of servers and environments to release to, and ITIL having the controls around that is much more impacting than it is on the development lifecycle.
I see. Okay. Let's get back to release management. Should it report, well, I guess I need to say this as in my statement, not as a question. Release management should be its own department, not reporting to apps or ops, fact or fiction. Release management, its own department, not reporting to apps or ops. Firmly taking a stand there, Paula. Yeah. And this is good. We have a fact, a no decision, and a fiction. We got every possibility represented here. Okay, so let's start with the fact, Justin.
So I think from a release perspective, you need to have that segregation of duties between the people that have actually created the technology and those that are going to put it into the production environment. So you're looking at fraud detection and prevention, making sure that no Trojan code is into the environment. So you don't want to have people fitting in with the release that actually understand how it's put together. So to me, it should be completely separate, and there should be no, you can't have the same person creating the code that's deploying it and involved in the release of it.
Okay, that makes sense. Craig, you said fiction.
I said fiction because we're finding that we're having greater success by having it tightly coupled with within our development because of the release packaging and the accountability. So if releases go bad, the developer is the one that's on call.
Yeah.
And so they're motivated to do it right and not get that call in the wee hours of the morning.
That feels sort of Kanban-ish or total quality to me. They own it all the way into production.
Yep, they're eventually it will hit them if things don't go right.
Right. So Paula, did either of these guys sway you?
I can see both sides of this. I think we'd love to be there, but we're small, and so we're not going to have all these separate departments, the responsibility. So I can go both ways on it, but, everybody's got to find their own path.
Yep, okay. Well, sort of on a similar theme, getting dev and ops to work together is a piece of cake. Fact or fiction? There we go. No disagreement here. How about some war stories? Who wants to go first? I see Craig. How about you? Now, you come, just truth in advertising, you come from the dev side.
I've worked in both
You've
camps.
worked in both, okay.
So there's what I found is that the ops side of the house tends to look at everything in as servers, network, plumbing, and not really gear. And the dev side thinks of the applications and the silos that form I think it's pretty common. We've had some success in bridging the gap because of some of the things that we've had to do, but it's challenging.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who wants to go to Paul?
There's a little animosity between the two departments. We're notorious for late releases, last-minute releases.
Right.
And so there's a little anger, people having to work later than expected or outside of normal business hours, but whatever to support the business.
Yeah. So they're coming at it from two different perspectives,
Yes,
and
very much
one
so.
side feels they have to catch the other side's tardiness or whatever. Justin?
I think that the one side is glass half full and the other side is glass half empty. So one is about innovation, development, and the other side is about managing risk.
Right.
So I think they continue at loggerheads. To me, it's something that we'll continually have in the industry. I can't see it ever being resolved.
Just because different goals and
different
motivations
drivers.
and drivers.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. Conflict in an organization is not a bad thing. So it's possibly good to have that conflict.
Right.
I just think that it's critical to have the collaboration so everybody's on the same page in terms of where things are, understanding status, what issues are, and how they can actually drive out the results to get things back on track.
Right.
So, yeah.
And of course, we at Serena would say if we give both sides visibility into what's going on, what's coming down the pike, or what's down the pike for dev to see that, it's got to help.
But there's no such thing as bug-free software.
There is no. All right, let's think about IT service management. IT service management rivals ERP for maintenance cost, complexity, and rigidity. ITSM rivals ERP for cost, complexity, and rigidity. Fact or fiction? We've got a fact, a fiction. We've got two facts and a fiction. All right, so let's start with, you were right up with the fact there, Justin, so tell us about your thoughts on
Let me
that.
qualify that. Not Serena ITSM.
Not Serena ITSM.
Okay.
Clear, yes, absolutely.
The traditional ITSM, I mean, I've been involved in some projects where we're talking 36 months to implement, costly development teams of 5 people. Ultimately, it's about the ability to change those technologies to fit the business, and they're just not designed to do that. I mean, the project I was involved in, we ultimately started trying to configure to fit the business, and 3 years later, we looked at implementing vanilla.
Yeah.
So, the cost associated with doing that was just ridiculous. Same customer purchased the Serena technology, implemented within 6 months, and it was
So
experiencing immediate
6 months
value.
with Serena, how long was it with you?
3 years.
3 years versus
Yeah.
6 months.
Same organization, so in two separate business units, they're running two separate technologies. The Serena technology was an interim solution,
Right.
and we've now been told that it will be the de facto standard. So
Yeah.
ultimately, we will replace the traditional ITSM solution.
Right, excellent, that's excellent. And we had another fact here, Paul. Would you want to give us some thoughts on this?
Well, hearing Justin talk, we're kind of immature on our ITSM journey. We're 3 years into our service management product, not Serena. And it's painful. And it's there's a number of us that would like to see a different direction. But it is.
How many years?
3.
3 years.
We're
3 years seems to be the thing.
We're in, but it's still painful. There's a lot of angst.
I see.
Yes, and yes, it's unbelievable and sometimes.
Well, maybe after 6 or 9 years it'll get better.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
We'll hope.
All right, but we had a fiction here, Craig.
I have a fiction mainly because I haven't experienced the ERP war stories. I've read about how bad they are, and as our company has grown, we've managed to steer clear of that. And we were an early adopter of TeamTrack, and we built some processes around that, and it went really well. So
Yeah. So you guys have been process-based and had software from Serena, even earlier software that was process-based from, if not the get-go, for many years now.
We have, and we're still growing our process capabilities, but around ITSM, it was, and we still have growth opportunities there, but it's we avoided the pain of the big implementations.
Luckily for you. Okay, let's do one more panel. And this is the last fact or fiction. It doesn't matter how IT presents its catalog of services to the business, fact or fiction. It doesn't matter how IT presents its catalog of services to the fiction. Oh, fiction across the board. So it does matter how IT presents itself to the business. Justin, start us off.
So I think it's important to understand how to categorize things so that people can navigate what they need to do. And it's got to make common sense. So ultimately, you can't just have a tree structure to navigate. It needs to make logical sense just by looking at it, to declutter an interface, and to make a user experience just a pleasurable thing to do.
Right.
So that's, I would say, fiction.
Yeah. And I might add, in my experience, many of the users, especially in the business, they're only going to come to the catalog maybe once a year. So
Occasional users, yeah.
the ultimate occasional users, if it doesn't make sense as soon as they see it, then
It's
IT is in a bad light.
without a doubt.
Yeah. Paula.
We don't have a catalog of services yet. We'd like to get there. As I said, we're experiencing painful journey.
Right.
And, so it's sad to say.
Let me throw in a commercial here for
Good.
Serena
You
Request
did that.
Center. You can
We
use
love
that in
looking
front
at it.
of your current painful ITSM system and then at least present IT in a good light to the business and get better visibility into what they're asking for also.
That's exactly what we're thinking.
Right.
And I'll add on to that. As we grow our process portfolio, we're big users of SBM, and to your point, those occasional users, as great as SBM is, the interface is not real quick to pick up. And I'm really excited about SRC. We just purchased SRC within the last 6 months and are in the process of rolling that out. And the simplicity around it has us really excited, and the user community really excited about easier access, more intuitive.
For your SBM processes.
For our SBM processes.
Right.
Yeah.
When I think that when Ali and team came up with SRC, they were thinking both a traditional service catalog, but also a frame, a way to present all of the SBM processes in a very accessible way to users throughout the company. And it sounds like that's something that you're heading towards.
It absolutely is, and it's. I'm a big believer in keeping it simple, and it feels like the SRC product is really carrying that forward, and it's being well received in our organization.
Excellent. All right, how about a round of applause for our panel?
Oh, yes.
Justin, thank you. Paula? Craig, thanks so much. After you guys.